I come to you live from the van that I'm currently re-renovating because I took everything apart to rebuild it, but that's another story for another time. In case I may look a little frazzled, a little not aesthetically pleasing, just go ahead and enter into this realm with me, imagining that I am kind of like a mad scientist, and although mad scientists look crazy, the things they're talking about are actually quite revolutionary and beneficial, not just for the scientists themselves, but for all those who decide to join in on the experiment as well. Thank you for clicking on this video and being open to receive a very quick and a very short introduction to the book that I plan on reading the entirety of and posting onto the internet so that no one can say that they didn't have the information available to them. No excuses is basically the goal that I have here for when anyone says, well, I didn't know. Well, I had no way to find out. How could I have known? I can't find that book. Where is this on the internet? I have it right here. The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Jack Herrera. My partner is the one who really introduced me to cannabis and to hemp, and if you'd like to hear more of my personal journey with it, you can follow me on my TikTok, Kaleidoscope Core, and I really talk a lot more in depth there because it's easier to quickly edit and retain most people's attention spans over there. But I love YouTube, and YouTube has always been my first place that I went to where I really found myself and found people like me and learned so much. Like everything I'm doing in this van, I've been doing from what I've learned through YouTube University. So anyhow, chapter 1 is very brief. It's the overview of the history of cannabis hemp. It's only 3 pages. So this will be the first share in a collection of every chapter that is in this book. Okay. So go ahead, get some tea, some coffee, preferably tea, maybe something without caffeine, some water, a blanket, curl up, maybe close your eyes and visualize what I'm talking about, or just stare at me as I read this book. But in any case, I trust and know that you will receive something that you did not know before about how this plant is going to be the plant that restores Gaia back to her harmonious balance. This is just a quick photo you can look at. Some peasants harvesting hemp at the beginning of the 20th century. Okay? Let us begin. Chapter 1. Overview of the history of cannabis hemp. For the purpose of clarity in this book, explanations or documentations marked with an asterisk are listed at the end of the related paragraphs. For brevity, other sources for facts, anecdotes, histories, studies, etc. are cited in the body of the text. Numbered footnotes are at the end of each chapter. Reproductions of selected critical source materials are incorporated into the body of the text or included in the appendices for anyone who needs receipts. The facts cited herein are generally verifiable in the Encyclopedia Britannica, which was printed primarily on paper produced with cannabis hemp for over 150 years. However, any encyclopedia, no matter how old, or good dictionary will do for general verification purposes. Overview of the history of cannabis hemp. Cannabis sativa L, also known as hemp, cannabis hemp, Indian hemp, true hemp, muggles, I thought that was funny, weed, pot, marijuana, reefer, grass, ganja, bong, the kind, daga, herb, etc. All names for exactly the same plant. What's in a name? Hempstead, Long Island, Hempstead County, Arkansas, Hempstead, Texas, Hemp Hill, North Carolina, Hemp Field, Pennsylvania, among others, were named after cannabis growing regions or after family names derived from hemp growing. And then there's a little map here you can see of all of the, what does it say? Major hemp growing regions of the U.S. There we go. Let us continue. American historical notes. In 1619, America's first marijuana law was enacted at Jamestown Colony, Virginia, where I'm currently, ordering all farmers to make trial of, grow, Indian hemp seed. More mandatory must-grow hemp cultivation laws were enacted in Massachusetts in 1631, in Connecticut in 1632, and in the Chesapeake colonies in the mid-1700s. Even in England, the much sought-after prize of full British citizenship was bestowed by a decree of the Crown on foreigners who would grow cannabis, and fines were often levied against those who refused. Cannabis hemp was a legal tender, money, in most of the Americas from 1631 until the early 1800s. Why? To encourage American farmers to grow more. You could pay your taxes with cannabis hemp throughout America for over 200 years. You could even be jailed in America for not growing cannabis during several periods of shortage, e.g. in Virginia between 1763 and 1767. Benjamin Franklin started one of America's first paper mills with cannabis. This allowed America to have a free colonial press without having to beg or justify the need for paper and books from England. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson grew cannabis on their plantations. Jefferson, while envoy to France, went to great expense and even considerable risk to himself and his secret agents to procure particularly good hemp seeds smuggled illegally into Turkey from China. The Chinese mandarins, political rulers, so valued their hemp seed that they made its exportation a capital offense. The United States Census of 1850 counted 8,327 hemp plantations, minimum 2,000-acre farms growing cannabis. Just let that sink in. 8,327 plantations with 2,000-acre farms each. That's a lot. I'll go ahead and let you look at this character that I'm about to read about. There it is. The Chinese character Ma was the earliest name for hemp. By the 10th century AD, Ma had become the general term for fibers of all kinds, including jute and rami. By then, the word for hemp had become Tai Ma or Dai Ma, meaning great hemp. Oh, excuse me, I missed the section right before. So the 8,327 hemp plantations, growing cannabis hemp, they grew it for cloth, canvas, and even the cordage used for balancing cotton. Most of these plantations were located in the South or in the border states, primarily because of the cheap slave labor available prior to 1865 for the labor-intensive hemp industry. Benjamin Franklin started one of America's first paper mills with cannabis. This allowed America to have a free colonial press without having to beg or justify the need for paper and books from England. In addition, various marijuana and hashish extracts were the first, second, or third most prescribed medicines in the United States from 1842 until the 1890s. Its medicinal use continued legally through the 1930s. That was about 100 years ago, for humans, and figured even more prominently in American and world veterinary medicines during this time. Cannabis extract medicines were produced by Eli Lilly, Park Davis, Tilden's, Brothers Smith, the Smith Brothers, Squibb, and many other American and European companies and apothecaries. During all this time, there was not one reported death from cannabis extract medicines, and virtually no abuse or mental disorders reported, except for first-time or novice users occasionally becoming disoriented or overly introverted. World Historical Notes. The earliest known woven fabric was apparently of hemp, which began to be worked in the 8th millennium, which is 8,000 to 7,000 BC. This is from the Columbia History of the World, 1981, page 54. The body of literature, archaeology, anthropology, philology, economy, history pertaining to hemp is in general agreement that, at the very least, from more than 1,000 years before the time of Christ until 1883 after death, cannabis hemp, indeed marijuana, was our planet's largest agricultural crop and most important industry, involving thousands of products and enterprises, producing the overall majority of Earth's fiber, Earth's fabric, Earth's lighting oil, Earth's paper, Earth's incense, and Earth's medicines. In addition, it was a primary source of essential food oil and protein for humans and animals. According to virtually every anthropologist and university in the world, marijuana was also used in most of our religions and cults as one of the 7 or so most widely used mood, mind, or pain-altering drugs, when taken as psychotropic, psychedelic, which is mind manifesting or expanding, sacraments. Almost without exception, these sacred drug experiences inspired our superstitions, amulets, talismans, religions, prayers, and language codes. Great wars were fought to ensure the availability of hemp. For example, the primary reason for the War of 1812, fought by Russia against Great Britain, was access to Russian cannabis hemp. Russian hemp was also the principal reason that Napoleon, our 1812 ally, and his continental system's allies invaded Russia in 1812. In 1942, after the Japanese invasion of the Philippines cut off the supply of Manila, abaca hemp, the U.S. government distributed 400,000 pounds of cannabis seeds to American farmers from Wisconsin to Kentucky, who produced 42,000 tons of hemp fiber annually until 1946, when the war ended. Just let that sink in. Why has cannabis, hemp / marijuana been so important in history? Because cannabis hemp is, overall, the strongest, most durable, longest lasting natural soft fiber on the planet. Its leaves and flower tops, the marijuana part, were, depending on the culture, the first, second, or third most important and most used medicines for 2/3 of the world's people for at least 3,000 years, until the turn of this century. Botanically, hemp is a member of the most advanced plant family on Earth. It is dioecious, having male, female, and sometimes hermaphroditic, male and female on the same plant. It's woody, herbaceous annual that uses the sun more efficiently than virtually any other plant on our planet, reaching about a robust 12 to 20 feet or more in one short growing season. It can be grown in virtually any climate or soil condition on Earth, even marginal ones. Hemp is, by far, Earth's premier renewable natural resource. This is why hemp is so very important. We're ending the chapter here. There were at least 60 tons of hemp on the USS Constitution alone. Hemp was used for the sails. Hemp was used for the rigging and ropes, for the sealant, for the maps, logs, Bibles, for the clothes, uniforms, flags, pennants, and ensigns. I don't know what ensigns means. This is all available, all this information in this book, and the next part is chapter 2. So that's just chapter 1. This is not something you're going to learn in school. This is not something you'll ever be taught about. This is not something any large corporation or governmental operation is going to want to tell you about or let you know or make important. And I just am going to start sharing about it and talking about it because I'm tired of not having any solutions and then finding the solution and no one really talking about it. So if you'd like to learn more about cannabis, hemp, marijuana, purchase this book. Check out my TikTok, check out my partner's platforms. Plant of Plenty are all of the platforms where he will be sharing his cannabis evangelism, is how he likes to call it. It can really save Gaia. It can do so much, and we're going to get more into that the more I read each chapter. I'm not entirely sure how many chapters there are, but there's not like, this is an easy read. If we have been in school for 10 plus years indoctrinating ourselves with a bunch of information that does no good for any of us really, then we can get through 16 chapters of a book. I believe in us. I know we can do that. 16 chapters. There's only 16 chapters. That's easy. That's easy read. That's light work. You and I will travel down this road, 16 chapters of this book. And by the end of it, I guarantee you, you will, anytime you look at any problem out in your life, anytime you see trash on earth, pollution, litter, poison in the water, chemtrails in the sky, you will know that there is one plant that can solve all of those things. And that is all in this book. So thank you so much for listening to chapter 1. I will see you again for chapter 2. Peace and love.